Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another odd one. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. It's nice out, but it got cold. Um, so I'm in New Brunswick, New Jersey, at an odd one. Some of my local friends that live around here probably know about it. Maybe they've never seen it, but I'm in the parking lot of Lowe's movie theater on Route 1. And in the back, in the middle of this parking lot, is a graveyard or a burial ground. Because this used to be the property of Mary Ellis. Now, Mary Ellis came from South Carolina. I couldn't find her date of birth, but it had to be, I would say, in the late 1700s, like 1790s or something like that. And she came from South Carolina and moved to a piece of property on Livingston Avenue in downtown New Brunswick. Completely different Livingston Avenue from what you see now. Uh, there used to be a river there. And if anybody's familiar with Livingston Avenue, you know that really old library that's right there. That actually got lifted up and moved to that location because of the river. So she bought the house on Livingston. And from all records, everybody talked about this great garden she had. Um, until she had to move. In 1813, a local politician named James Sherman, he decided that her land was the best place to put a road, just straight through her land. Um, Obviously, she didn't like it. Um, she stood up to him. She was a fierce feminist back in that day. Um, she would actually go and vote for elections before women would even be able to vote by law. So he took her land and built the road. He named it Sherman Road. So what did Mary Ellis do? She decided that she's going to put up a sign next to the street sign and just call it Oppression Street. Now, she moved here in 1813, this parking lot. And she lived here until she passed away in 1813. Now, the land that she lives on, this land, um, it was known to the people around as Mount Hemlock, um, and it overlooks the Raritan River. You can still see a decent view of the river from here, but with developments and stuff like that, it's a little tough. But before Mary passed away, she had her niece promise her that she would bury her on her land. And now the fun stuff. So there's folklore, or is it truth? I really don't know. But the story goes, um, while she was living here, she fell in love with a sailor. The sailor had to leave, I guess, for work. But Mary Ellis, being in love, she would come over um, onto a knoll on her property and overlook the river every single day, waiting for her love to come back. Again, not sure if this is true, because records again say she was a fierce feminist. So if she was a fierce feminist, I'm not sure that she would be standing on a knoll every day looking for a man. Um, this property has definitely changed over the years. Um, John E. Burke, he was a local man and bought the land back in 1943, and he built the Raritan Playground or Playland Amusement Park. Uh, but he always wanted to move the graves because for him it was in the way of his amusement park. Um, until he realized one thing: the local law stipulates that he has to get signed permission from the relatives of every single person buried here. I'm not sure how many people are buried in this plot. I know there's at least 6 people here. A couple different clans: the Whites, the Evans, um, Ellis's. But after finding this out, he's like, "F this. I'm not doing it." So fast forward a few years. By the time the summer of 1956 hit, um, Mary's I keep looking this way because that's where her headstone is, and then to my left, there's people working at Lowe's. Um, her headstone. So by the time of summer of '56, her headstone was knocked down, and it was partially buried. Um, they say it was just kids or hooligans back then just fucking around with shit and knocked it over. Let's go to 1965. 1965 rolls around, and the Raritan River amusement park was gone. So there goes the first business, and they built the Great Eastern Department Store on what was literally on top of what was her house at the time. So we find out that I guess the owners of the department store had a little bit of a heart. And they wanted to build this great wall around the graves, around the burial ground. So they created a 20-foot pit in the parking lot, and the pit would end up just being a dumping ground for people's trash. They would come over here and just chuck the trash in. Now let's roll to 1980. So now we have 2 businesses on her land. 1980, a man named Ray Travis and John E. Burke's son, they made this place. They called it the Route 1 Flea Market. The Route 1 Flea Market stayed here till 1975. So then that's when they wanted to fix the graves and make it like back to ground level, and then move the headstones. The people of the town, they didn't want that to happen. They didn't want anything moved until they realized it was all in preservation of the grounds. So in 1980, this cost about $1,000. I'm not sure, how much that will be now. So they spent $1,000 on 11 truckloads of dirt to fill this up and make it all better. So now we're in 1980, and New Brunswick had this festival, it was the Raritan River Festival, and they would have like boats and stuff going down the river. And that year, they had a boat made for to commemorate Mary Ellis. I couldn't find any pictures of it or any of the festivals. I'm pretty sure I didn't look hard enough. I'm a bit lazy when it comes to some of that shit. But eventually the flea market would be demolished, and then it becomes the Lowe's Theater that everybody knows of now. Now this next piece is interesting because you could say it's true or it's folklore, but Rutgers University, the State University of New Jersey, it's right down the street. Literally, it's like 3 miles. It's right across the river. In 1972, they had a bunch of students there that made a band. The band was called Looking Glass. You probably don't know the band's name. I gotta show you this. Yep. Sorry. It's my team. Go Birds. So in 1972, they made a band called Looking Glass. You probably don't know who they are, but they were yacht rock, what we know today is yacht rock. And they made the song Brandy. Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. That song. People think that song is actually about Mary Ellis. They think the song is about Mary Ellis because the song itself was about a bartender that finds someone to love, falls in love with someone that's a sailor. But this sailor preferred the sea as his one true love. But according to the band, this isn't true. It has nothing to do with Mary Ellis. So that's it. That's the story of Mary Ellis and the burial grounds in the middle of a parking lot. Now, today, I'll show you an aerial picture of it right over top of my face. Now, as you can see, there's a huge wall. It's a 20-foot wall. No, wait, scratch that. I'm looking at it now. It's probably 6 or 7 feet. But it's full of brick. You'll see it once we go out there. I won't be out there too long because you can't see anything. You could just see the brick and then the fence around it and then a headstone. You can't even like walk up. There's no steps up there or anything. So, you know, I've included more pictures, some aerial shots and some decent like head-on shots, and you'll see. So let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, guys, so we're outside. It's very noisy here. Route 1 has plenty of traffic. Straight ahead, you'll see, if you can see the blue bridge behind the tree line, that's the bridge that goes over the Raritan. So the Raritan River is right below these trees here. And here's Lowe's. Now we're behind Lowe's, and this is where we find Miss Mary Ellis. I really can't see the description on it. Let me see if I can. Mildred Moody, wife of Thomas. But like I said, it's not like it's something that you can go up and look. I mean, they got a gate up there. There's a gate. But if you want to climb it, go right ahead. But as you can see, they built around this place. There's a Starbucks up front. There's condos here. But, yep. Here's the grave. I will talk to you guys later.